Good morning. Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Nashville. My name is Jay Tiefenbrunn and I'm very pleased to be your Director of Music Ministries. I'd like to invite you to join me in singing our opening morning songs with the song Peace Somewhere. It's in your order of service. Please rise in body or in spirit as you're so moved and join in the singing Peace Somewhere by Judy Fell. Hymnal number 181, No Matter If You Live Now Far or Near. Hymn number 181, we'll be doing the first two verses.
Come
Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free, number 151.
We light our flaming chalice to illuminate the world we seek. In search for truth, we may be just. In the search for justice, may we be loving. And in loving, may we find peace.
And I've asked Sally to light this candle of memory on the altar as well. Yesterday morning, the eldest member of our congregation, Joy Chipping, passed away at the age of 98. She's been a member here for decades. She was actually the church secretary for quite a long time. She helped form the feminist library that we had here, sponsored many women's groups, and she will be missed.
For the opening words, The Guest House by Rumi. Being human is being a guest house. Every day a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house clean of all its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. They may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent to you as a guide.
Well, may the telling of this story do honor to the Tantric Buddhist saint Milarepa, who wrote this story in his autobiography, which is a sacred text, The Life of Milarepa, from the 12th century. Once upon a time, there was a very bad man named Milarepa. He had gone to study sorcery and the black arts as a child because he wanted to seek revenge on relatives that had been very cruel to his family. And as he grew up, he grew strong in his black magic, and he was able to destroy not just that family, but the whole village that they lived in. And he was so satisfied, and he went up into the hills of Tibet, around where he had lived, and in the peace and quiet of that place, he started to regret what he had done. He started to feel that maybe he had gone a little overboard, destroying the whole village and everyone in it, and wanted to learn to be a good person. So he sought to study with a Buddhist Lama, a Buddhist teacher, and that Buddhist teacher worked him hard for more than a decade. Sometimes the lessons were humiliating and humbled him. But after a decade, he kept to it, and his Lama said to him, okay, now you're ready to become a hermit. You're ready to go out into the mountains, find a cave, and do nothing but meditate. And if you do that, eventually, you shall become enlightened in this lifetime. In other words, you will find perfect peace. So, and he changed his name. He said, you are now no longer Mila, you are now Milarepa. And that just means Mila who wears a cotton shift. So he was just going to wear the simplest cotton clothes. So he goes up into the mountains. He finds the perfect cave far from any human habitation. And he eats nothing but herbs that he gathers on the country in the hills, and he boils them up into this tea. He actually, after living there a decade, his skin turns green. And he's been meditating for that decade. He's been writing songs and writing poetry. But he doesn't feel any closer to perfect peace than he did when he got there. Well, one day he's coming back to the cave after having gathered lots of wood, because he's going to make his herbal tea that he lives on. And he comes up to the door of the cave, the opening of the cave, and he looks in, backs away, he's shocked. There's all these creatures in there. They're like demons. They're kind of grunting and scary looking, and he's just like angry to see them there, and he's, get out, get out, get out of my cave, that's my cave, you can't go in there. And all the demons come to the door of the cave, and they look bigger and bigger, and they show their teeth, and they show their claws. Yeah, he backs away. He's like, oh, all right, I need to take another tact. So he says, I still remember some of my black magic. I'll use that. And so he does a spell, and this great tornado comes and starts whirling into the cave, and all of the demons move back. But they're fine. They start growling louder and louder and screeching until the noise just is hurting Milarepa's ears. He's like, stop, stop. Takes a few breaths. He's like, okay, all right, what have I been doing here for 10 years? What did my master teach me for another 10 years? Okay, this is, I've got to do what I've taught. So he says, he sits down and he says, all right, demons, I'm sorry. I understand you need to learn everything I've learned, so I will teach you the Dharma. I'll teach you how to meditate. I'll teach you about compassion. I'll teach you that all of life is an illusion. And all the demons just ho hum, and they sit around and go about their business, totally ignoring him in the cave. Oh, that's not working. So he says, all right, I guess I have to just show them the teachings. So he gathers up his wood, and he goes in the cave, and he says, oh, hello, welcome everybody. I'm so glad you've come to live with me. And he starts building his fire. He says, maybe you'd like to have some tea. Why don't we gather around the fire? It'll be nice and warm. I'll make you some tea. And then afterwards, we can play. And he looks up, poof, 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 poof. Each and every demon starts disappearing until he's there all alone. He thinks he's all alone. And then he hears in the back, darkest part of the cave, this ooh, maybe there's some demons back there. So he goes on back, and he looks, and there is the biggest, fiercest, scariest looking demon he has ever seen. His worst nightmare. And at first, he's going to get angry, but then he goes, no, that certainly didn't work. So he goes up to the demon and he says, you still are here. You must not like herbal tea. Maybe you would like to eat something more substantial. And he leans forward and starts to put his head in the demon's mouth. He says, maybe you'd like to have me for dinner. And he closes his eyes. And nothing happens. He opens them up. Poof. The demon was gone. Milarepa gave thanks to the teachings. And it wasn't that long after that he finally reached perfect peace. May it be so for all of us. And I would like, you want me to? Okay. I'd like to, some of you have met Karina Daza, who is, welcome Karina, she's our, do you want to introduce her, Jay?
This is Karina. She's our coordinator of children's music, and she's gonna lead our sings out.
Kids to come to RE today. Because we're gonna have music day in RE, so we'd like to have all kids come today.
And tell them about singing from the inside, from here.
Please join us in singing the kids out with the song on the inside back cover of your hymnal.
Thank you, Karina.
Good morning. My name is Sally Winkle, and I'm a worship associate and member of this church. It's my pleasure to welcome you here to this sanctuary, and those joining us online, welcome to you as well. In order to reach a wider community than those able to physically be present on Sunday mornings, our services are live streamed on YouTube and Facebook. Joys and concerns, however, are not live streamed or recorded. And before I continue, please let me remind you to silence your cell phones. As Unitarian Universalists, our spiritual paths vary, but in this congregation we have made a covenant together. We affirm our interdependence, celebrate our differences, and work for justice. We deepen our relationships as we create a compassionate, welcoming community, nurture spiritual growth and act on our values in the broader world. I want to extend a special welcome to visitors worshiping with us this morning. We ask you to wear the paper name tags because it helps us recognize you as someone we would like to meet. If you're seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you may find it here. Whether you're new to Unitarian Universalism or just visiting from another UU congregation, we invite you to stop by the welcome table after the service to have any questions answered. People become members of this congregation by signing the membership book and supporting the church with their time and their finances. If you're considering joining the church, please talk to our Assistant Minister, Denise Gouch, or of course, our Reverend, Gail. Following the service, we hope that everyone will enjoy coffee and fellowship in the social area, where you will also find information about current opportunities for engagement and reflection. There are a number of announcements in the weekly bulletin, which I hope you'll take home and read, but I have an additional two. Guest at Your Table is a fundraising program by the UUSC to raise and support awareness of human rights issues around the world. To participate, pick up a Guest at Your Table box in the back of the sanctuary and place it in your home or office to collect those loose change or dollar bills throughout the holiday season. And the boxes will be collected in January. Also, Reverend Gail Seavey is holding informal 10 to 20 minute one-on-one conversations on a first come, first term basis today from 12:30 until 2:30 in her office in the Norris House. Thank you.
I'd like to invite you all to take a deep breath. Bring yourself more fully present to this sacred space, to this gathered community, and to yourself. As you become more present to yourself, you may become more aware of those moments from the last weeks or days or hours that you bring here with you, especially those moments that have struck your spirit to the heart. If any of you have such a profound joy, sorrow, or concern you'd like to make more present to this gathered community, you're invited to do so. Our lay minister this morning, Gloria Ballard, will has some pebbles here that you're invited to place in this bowl of water, symbolizing our community holding one another. And if you would like Gloria or me to read of that joy or concern, there's yellow slips of paper in the pews for you to do so. Please write it out as legibly as possible and hand it to me when you place your stone. Thank you. All the joys, concerns, and sorrows that lay unspoken on your lips and hearts in the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life and love, we seek peace. We know that we don't always know how to be peaceful within our own hearts and when we are with other people. We seek to connect to that place deep within us, that place of stillness and quiet that teaches us true peace. And we seek to reach out to others in that spirit, no matter how they are acting. As we listen to stories like Milarepa this morning, we may become more aware that finding peace, making peacefulness for ourselves and for others is a skill and a practice. Help each of us to have that patience to learn. As we enter into a season when people are singing songs about peace, may we find it in our hearts and with those around us. Blessed be, and amen. I just want to remind you that on Christmas Eve, we have 2 worship services, speaking of the holidays ahead. And at the 5:30 service is the family service, and we always like to do child dedications to celebrate that every night a child is born is a holy night. So please tell me if your family would like to participate in that. Thank you. And now we will receive our offering. And those of you who want to donate online, there's directions in the order of service, or if you're watching this online, then please look at www.fun.org to donate. This month, we're sharing our plate, as we do, with different organizations outside the church that support our mission. We're sharing this month with Tennessee Alliance for Kids, which helps children and families who are either going into the foster care system or trying to avoid going into the foster care system. So there's more about it in your order of service. And I want to thank you so much for your ongoing generosity.
Good morning. So I'm going to do a couple of things. One is just talk about my meditation practice, which has been going on for about 6 years or so, and the other I'm going to lead a guided meditation. I'm feeling the need to say, I'm not enlightened, for one. That's definitely not true. Know thyself. That's some of the oldest wisdom that's really been handed out, and to me, that's very much what meditation is about. And it's really an honoring of kind of the mystery of life that comes out. I mean, over time I've seen that life comes out of me just like it comes out of everybody. And meditation in large part is about creating intentional space to give attention to that. And it's a mechanism to connect with my deep self, which really comes out of that spirit. Technically, it's a mechanism or a tool to recognize subtle energies that exist within myself. And what I feel like I've learned over time is that, those energies are what drive behavior. And historically, and still now, I have many behaviors that are driven from a subconscious level, but meditation helps to kind of open that up to live more consciously. Subtle energies such as just subtle thought processes, a deep energy in my belly, a desire to retreat or withdraw, or that need for comfort, all those things that drive me to do certain things. And so meditation helps to be more conscious and aware of that, and to hopefully, ideally, be more skillful in my behaviors as it relates to those energies. It's also a means for me to show myself that I matter. Alan and I come out of the NVC community, in large part, and something I learned through NVC process and practice groups and retreats, etc., was that at a very deep level, I can fall into a place where I conclude I don't matter. And I didn't realize that for a long time, but having understood that now, it makes so much of my life make more sense. And meditation's a mechanism for me to show myself that I matter. So it's a time to create an intentional space, to watch the energies that arise out of me, and to pay attention to those in a kind and compassionate way. And so it creates a space for me to create mattering for myself, which is a deep need. At the same time, there's been a sense of depersonalization that's developed over time. This really comes out of the Buddhist concept of no self. And that concept, in a nutshell, says basically that you don't exist. And if you look at the components of what we normally would say we are, it would be made up of thought process, arising feelings, body perceptions, our perceptions of the world. And over time, that has shown itself to be consistent with my experience, I guess I would say. I really have not been able to identify a single thought process that I have created. They all seem to come up, which is weird when you talk in front of people, and that's happening in this moment. It's strange. But then the arising of bodily feelings as well. It's very clear to me that I don't choose those things at all. Bodily sensations, sounds, touch sensations, etc. Those are not me. Those are things that arrive on the scene as well. And then at a more complicated level, or something that's more subtle, is just perceptions of the world. And that's something that I'm continuing to work on. I have also learned over time that within the practice of meditation, which is very much about letting go, there is an intention to create an opportunity to give myself consideration, but simultaneously there's intention to not feed any of that. And so really just to watch it and let it go through. And what I've experienced with some consistency, with a lot of consistency actually, is that with the practice of meditation, when the mind can get quiet, the default setting is positive. All the thoughts, feelings arising that we cling on to, there's a lot of strain and stress that comes in association with that. But whenever some quiet mind can arise in and of itself, the default setting is positive, and oftentimes coming out of a meditation period of half an hour, 40 minutes or so, there's a bit of a sense of kind of like being reborn, just kind of waking up and seeing like sunlight, leaves. It's really simple, but the default is positive. I've also developed the impression over time that out of silence comes wisdom, and wisdom is always, it's always kind and generous and compassionate. And so, along with so many other thoughts and feelings that are a struggle and really don't seem to make much of a contribution to the world, that from quiet generally comes that intuitive sense of like, oh, maybe I should do this for that person. Or, oh, maybe I need to listen to these kind of intuitions that can be taken out into the day and remembered in the moment. And it does seem like that there's a wisdom that lives next to that silence. Okay. So I am going to mess with my phone, and we're going to lead I'm going to lead a guided meditation. The intention is for this to be 5 minutes, and I'll keep up with all the time stuff. So don't worry about figuring out where we are in that process. So it is helpful just to get in a comfortable and stable position. Typically that's feet square on the ground and back straight, etc. I think the pews here, they kind of lean you back a little bit, so it's kind of hard. It makes your neck a little funky. But get stable where you're not going to have to move. Good posture with a straight spine as best possible. And then set your intention. And the intention really is to let everything go at this time. So as things arise, thoughts arise, feelings arise, as you arise, that you really don't grab a hold of any of that, and you don't feed it, you don't try to figure anything out, but you let all that go every time. Also, I think it's helpful to set an intention to be kind and gentle to yourself. Foundationally, meditation is about not thinking. Inevitably, I think everybody here will think. So don't be hard on yourself. Be kind and gentle with yourself. Don't move. Don't scratch anything. Don't shift. If you need to cough or sneeze, see if you can just kind of feel that in you before it comes out. If it comes out, it's totally fine. So close your eyes and become aware of where your attention is. Where is your attention? And a bell will go off. So bring your attention to your breath. See if you can tell when you're breathing in, you know you're breathing in. When you're breathing out, you know that you're breathing out. Just let your attention rest around that. Not too tight. If your mind does wander, once you recognize that, just gently bring your attention back to your breath. Let it rest there. Now see if additionally you can sense if there's any place in your body that has kind of a focal point of energy between the base of your spine and the top of your head. If anything's more energized than anywhere else, see if you can recognize that. Is there any place that's more alive than the other places? If your mind wanders, bring it back to your breath, gently. See if you can live in that space between your breath and that spot of energy. For the rest of the time, I'd like for you to contemplate if you know where fear lives in your body. And where anger lives in your body. Do you know those places? And if you do know those places, can you be kind to those places?
The next part of the service, I wouldn't really call a sermon. We're going to do this together. We're going to delve into what Rumi was getting at in his poem about welcoming those momentary visitors, joy, depression, anger, shame, or others like fear, powerlessness, anxiety, overwhelm, suffering. These awarenesses or feelings may be in regard to all sorts of things, to pain, to stress, losses, aging, climate change, abuse. I often find that with me, sometimes the feelings are not so much about those facts as they are about my thoughts about them. Thoughts like, I can't believe she, or I did everything right, I don't deserve this. With thoughts like this, I can say stuck and keep the pot stirring, reigniting the feelings over and over. The two insights I get out of Rumi is that we can welcome these visitors and we can use them as guides. When I can, and I've had a lot of practice and that still doesn't come easy. I still fall into my old habit patterns, but when we can welcome these feelings and turn toward them rather than try to stuff them away, I find that they pass. And while I'm looking at them and being with them, I can be guided towards what's important to me. So we're going to do a practice to work on ways to connect with these challenging feelings with ourselves and with others. So for the first step, I invite you to find a partner to practice with. And I'd encourage you not to choose the person you rode to church with today. So everybody, partner up. Does anybody not have a partner? Hold up your hand if you don't have a partner. Okay. And folks who are doing this online, you're going to get, I guess, 2 opportunities to do this yourself. So I wanted you to find your partner first so you wouldn't be feeling that sort of anxiety about that piece. So now you can just listen to the rest of these instructions. We're going to have 2 5-minute sessions for one of you to talk to the other and the other to listen. First thing you'll do when we start is choose who will speak first. So when you're the speaker, think of a situation that brings up one of these challenging feelings for you. And since we only have 5 minutes, don't make it a 10 on the scale of 1 to 10. Just, you might choose irritation rather than anger, for instance, whatever. So tell your listener very briefly what the situation is. We often say 40 words or less. What you want to focus on is the feeling. So tell your partner the feeling and take a minute, as Trey kind of did with part of the meditation, connect with the feeling. Where is it in your body? How does it feel? And don't rush through that part. Then, if you still have time, tell your partner what the message is, what you're guided to by that feeling. Is there something important to you that's involved, that's triggered by the situation? What values or needs do you have that maybe aren't being met in this situation? Are you needing to feel safe? Are you longing for peace, for peacefulness, to have more meaning in your life, to matter, to know you matter to the people in your life or to yourself? Or there might be other needs, these universal needs to belong, community, love, or to just be more deeply connected with people. That's the speaker's job. Listeners, your job is just to listen. See if you can listen, not just with your ears, but with your whole body. Really try to be there, be wholly present to your speaker. Thoughts will probably come into your mind. Notice it, but then come back to the listening. Don't be thinking about what you'd like to say or advice you'd like to give. Just drop all that and come back to the listening. Be as fully present to your partner as you can be. I'll ring the gong to start, and then after 5 minutes, and you can switch. Okay. Everyone switch.
like to invite you to rise in body or in spirit and open your order of service, or pull out the insert in your order of service. Yes. And join me in singing Let There Be Peace on Earth. Please note that we are using alternate lyrics. Yes. I do. Thank you so much. I got an order of service and the insert was gone. Here we go.
Join me in some of the words found at the bottom of your program. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
And I'd like to close with these words from Alice Blair Wesley. We pledge to walk together in the ways of truth and affection as best we know them now, or may learn them in days to come, that we and our children may be fulfilled, and that we may speak to the world in words and actions of peace and goodwill. The service is over. Let our service begin again, renewed.